So my number one, you may have seen it before.
Is it?
It is my man.
No!
No. I love that that's your number one, but it's also the worst. I love
That's the
it.
worst.
Yes, and that's part of the reason why. Because hey there, all you internet people. Welcome to another episode of Super Agile Bros. You already know what it is. It's your boy, Bradston. We got Kyle and Steve in the building. Kyle, tell everybody, hey.
Hey, what's going on, y'all?
Steve, tell the people hello. Yes. So today is going to be an interesting episode. It's been a fun romp so far in our Super Agile Bros podcast series. We've been talking about a lot of different things, movies, video games, our origin stories, all kind of stuff. But today I wanted to switch it up a little bit because, as you may guess from the type of people we are, nerds, that we're into a lot of different things. That is nerd culture. And one of those things is anime. I know there's different varying degrees of our interest in anime in our friend group here, Super Agile Bros. But I kind of tasked the guys with making a top 5 anime list. Now, Steve had an issue with this, and he did not like the mandates that I made, specifically that it'd be an ordered list. And I don't know, Kyle, was the ordering an issue for you, or was it like, yeah, whatever, I can do this, man?
So I kind of agreed with Steve where he said, picking a favorite was kind of tough.
Okay.
But otherwise, it wasn't too bad.
Okay. And Steve, did you eventually, you got it together?
What I decided was I was just going to have a really rough list, and I'm not going to live or die on any hills regarding the top versus the top second or third or fourth.
Well, today many will die on a hill, including Steve.
It's just a general fondness. That's the order is in general fondness.
Yeah, I told Steve that at the end of the day, the order is what it is in the moment, right? Like my order will change like from week to week, month to month, year to year as I reflect on seeing other animes and like seeing other things. I'm like, oh, you know what? This moved up. Like even making this list, things that were in different positions change. Is that the same for you, Kyle? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I can definitely get behind that. And even the reason for why things are where they are now, there's more than if I'm currently watching it or, there's different things that play into it.
Yeah. So we're going to get into it. I assume we'll probably talk about anime in general, but I kind of want to go through the list and then just kind of go from there and see where we're at. So how we're going to do this. Okay, check this out. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from 5 and we're all going to share our 5. But I'll go then Steve, then maybe Kyle, right? But we'll just do our 5 and we'll share why it's in our list and why we put it at the position. And then we'll make our way down till we hit number 1. So I'm interested to see what's on y'all's list. To be very honest, for me, this was difficult because at first I kind of had a top 5 and then I went through and I did like a look at all the different animes that like ever existed. I looked at the top 500 anime ever. And one anime I did forget about, and I can't believe I forget about it because I was just talking to somebody about it the other day. But what happened is then my top 5 became like my top 7 or 8. And like a few of them are like really pretty much neck and neck. So just had to make some tough decisions. So cool. Let's get into it. So I guess I'll start and we'll go around. I'll start with my number 5 and then I guess go Steve and then Kyle. So my number 5, and I feel like this will always be my number 5 just because it has a position in my heart that it technically can't be higher on my list. But anyway, it's Dragon Ball Z. Now, for me, like Dragon Ball Z, I think if I were to list most impactful animes, I would put this at my number one, like 100%. Because for me, I mean, I'd seen other animes before Dragon Ball Z, like because like on Cartoon Network and stuff like that. But like genuinely, there was nothing like Dragon Ball Z when I was growing up. Like 100, like I don't know how it was for y'all, but like that was everything. Like I remember one time in school, I was talking to one of my homeboys at in gym class about Goku becoming a Super Saiyan, and like we're like in class, and there's like this really like kind of like the cute girl in our class, and there's like the really athletic guy, and then like a random dude, and you know we're like kind of nerdy. Like I was nerdy growing up, but I didn't really care. And I was like, yo, man, you seen Goku turn Super Saiyan, son? That joke was crazy. And we're going back and forth. And then the girl goes, you guys watch Dragon Ball Z? Like, she says it like that. And we're like, excuse me? Like, you? Like, did you just say Dragon Ball Z? Like, and we're like, yeah. And she was like, yeah, I watch it too. And we were like, no, you're lying. She's like,
hard
yeah.
eyes.
And we, like, literally, like, we fell in love in that moment. We were like, no, you're playing. She's like, no, yeah, I watch it. Goku.
The blood squirting out of your nose.
Yeah, like straight and flying to the ceiling. Like straight up, we were like, no way. And she was like, yeah, like, I'm really into it. Like, I can't believe that Kakarot. I said, did you just call him Kakarot? You know, like,
oh, wow.
you know, and then like the really like cool kind of like athletic guy's like, oh, y'all watch Dragon Ball Z? Like, he was sitting there the whole time, but he wasn't going to say nothing. It was until she said something, and then somebody else chimed in, and then it was like 7 of us talking about Dragon Ball Z and Goku becoming Super Saiyan, how gangster that was. So, I don't know. I feel like it was a cultural icon. I mean, for most people, I think, like, even if Dragon Ball Z is not in their top 5, it's an anime that, if you're an anime lover, there's an anime fan, there's probably a likelihood that you've seen Dragon Ball Z. You know what I'm saying? It's just...
So I don't disagree with what you just said about how iconic it is. However, I have not watched Dragon Ball Z.
Oh,
blasphemy! Get out.
Yeah,
I'm legitimately
I did not have cable growing up. So whatever Toonami or anything, whatever I watched, it was always just when I was visiting a friend. So I couldn't follow basically anything on Cartoon Network or anything that had a plot.
I didn't watch
I watched a little bit of Yu Yu, a little bit of Dragon Ball, a little bit of what else did I see? I don't remember, but yeah, I didn't watch it. Not truly.
Wow. And you said you didn't watch it till you were in college, you said, Kyle?
Yeah, till I was much older, and like pretty much the same reason to shoot. I didn't have the means until, internet and cable TV offered in dorms.
Hey, then you went in. That's wild. Wow. Like for me, we had just gotten basic cable maybe a few years before it started because we didn't have cable. And then we also, at that same time, my brother was old enough to understand the internet well enough to be able to access Japanese websites.
What?
So you got those good translations.
No, well, what happened was we were seeing what was happening in Japan. And I remember, the load would page like, like really slow. And it was a picture of Goku Super Saiyan like 3. And I just remember like we waited like 30 minutes because it was like a high definition photo on this random like GeoCities site. And it was just like, all we saw was his forehead. Like we saw the top of his hair and then like his forehead. We were like, yo, what is going on? Why is his hair yellow? And it was all Japanese. And we were just like, my brother was like, what's gonna happen? Like, so we didn't know we didn't understand till later that like Japan was way ahead of us. We just were like super confused. Like, what is this thing? Like, it just had like SSJ like 3, we're like, what does that even mean? Like, it was crazy.
Still don't know what that means.
It doesn't mean anything. It's just totally fake.
It's a typo.
It was just oops. And they just carried it along like, it's here now. So yeah, man, that's my number 5. I mean, there's so much more I can say about Dragon Ball Z. Actually, like, on a side note, I like want to like convince you, Steve. I'm always trying to convince Steve to do something. Like, it's just I think that's my destiny. But to watch Dragon Ball Z and us to do like what's it like to watch Dragon Ball Z in 2021 with no like nostalgia factor.
I don't know, man. That's a hard sell. There's so much. There's so much stuff that I actually want to watch.
I mean, Dragon Ball Z is so iconic. It's like you don't want to watch Michael Jackson concerts because it happened in 1980s. Like, no, they're still,
I'm
like,
not. Who said that? It's because it's old. I just looking just from what I've seen. I don't think it's that good. I think it was what we had. I think that it was formative. I mean, you watched it in college, Kyle. What do you think? Do you think that this show is like comparable to the best anime that you've seen that are like in the last 10 years?
So I think you and I have different tastes when it comes to comparable. I just know based on what little I know about the animes you watched, you like very polished animation. Like you like seamless stuff. And so I don't really care. To me, animation style, animation technique, all that stuff is secondary. So yes, to me, I think it holds up.
Well, I mean, it's also like storytelling and the script and, like things that make up a show that I care about, not just the animation.
I mean, I think Kyle said it all. It still holds up.
Okay.
And I think that's the hard thing. Like, it's going to have some tropes that you're not going to like because just it's the forebear, right? So just like in video
it's
games,
the forebear, sure.
Like, like unskippable cutscenes. Like, I don't care what nobody says. That stuff is trash. Like, nobody's trying to deal with that, especially if you die in a boss fight and then you have to, to see that
Kingdom Hearts PTSD.
Gosh,
you know it.
But I think we can agree that even those games are iconic.
Are iconic.
They are iconic, and I'll tell you, I tried to replay Kingdom Hearts a few years ago, and I couldn't because of all these terrible quality of life things. But if I could get my hands on, one of the newer remakes where they fix a bunch of that stuff, I would absolutely try to play through Kingdom Hearts 1 again.
I will say this. I also encourage you, and I say this with people for other animes like One Piece, even Naruto, is to watch it alongside a filler guide.
Oh, yeah,
because
for sure.
This is before people even understood what filler was. So, like, filler is like, just for those who are uninformed about anime in the sense like you don't watch it and like care about all the lingo, filler is basically episodes that do nothing to progress the plot. And anime is very good at that because
notorious.
Like because of the source material that it comes from, the manga, which is basically comics or whatever. A lot of times like they're just very straightforward and they go straight to the point. But if you're making a TV show, you need it to be like X amount of episodes. And, you know what I'm saying? So
it isn't just that it doesn't advance the plot. The tone can be totally different. It's just it's filler. It's wasting your time.
Yeah, it's fluff.
It's fluff. Yeah. They're trying to keep their budget going while they're waiting for the manga to catch up.
Exactly. And keep you just paying attention. I've seen some anime do a really good job with filler, like where I didn't know it was filler until I was like, oh, this has nothing to do with anything. But they did a good job because it was interesting. So anyway, Dragon Ball Z, we could probably talk about this for a long time, but I'm probably like, I definitely want to continue to try to convince Steve to do go back. I'll even watch it with you, in parallel. I would do it because I'm definitely aware of my nostalgia, so I'll try to I saw it when I was literally a kid,
Yeah.
So
I think you'll have an easier time convincing me to watch Naruto because Keisha would probably watch that with me.
Naruto is an easier sell for many reasons, but
yeah,
we'll continue. So, Steve, what's your number 5?
So I had this list, but then approximately 10 minutes ago, I was looking at my list, and you were talking about explaining the things, and I was like, oh, I just realized I have a better. So I'm dropping my number 5 and replacing it. Do you want to know what the original number 5 was, or should I just pass?
We'll come back around.
That's cheating. Okay, so my new number 5 is Heroic Age.
Wow.
In a lot of ways, it probably should be higher, but it's hard for me to recommend to people. But I've watched it through several times.
Ooh.
And it always makes me tear up near the end, and I always get really hyped for some of the fight scenes. I've watched it 3 or 4 times straight through. I tried to get Keisha to watch it, and she said I don't like mech anime, and I almost wept on the spot because it's not a mech anime, and to hear it simplified as such hurt me deeply.
It is. If you look on the internet, it's definitely considered a mech anime.
Yeah, but it's just her reasoning is not sound. But anyway,
But
yeah,
continue.
Heroic Age, and it's this great sci-fi anime about humans. You'll find this is a common theme with things that I like, whether in any genre, is I like when a story explores the positive traits of humanity. And one of those positive traits I always enjoy is like exploration and fight for survival and ingenuity and things like that. So it's not on the list, but things like Gurren Lagann I love. I talked about Arrival in a previous episode. I like that movie for the same reason. Anyway, cool sci-fi about humans fighting against several species of aliens, trying to fulfill our destiny and find the Golden Tribe. And it has some like goofy characters, and probably the most. I know that there are women with bigger chests in anime, but of all the anime that I've watched and personally enjoyed, she's the dumbest big-chested woman. Not dumbest. She's actually a cool character, but in terms of like just ridiculous Japanese art, like she's out there.
So now I know, Steve, you were there for the plot.
He's all about that fan service, baby. Like that's his number one trait. Like
no.
with fan.
The animation's fine. Talking about animation, the music is solid. I really love the music.
Quality music. So I just got to give you some props for putting Heroic Ag anywhere near because it's so hard to explain it to any human being.
It is.
I still don't know what's going on.
Like it's the anime that you didn't know you needed in your life.
I don't know if I've even ever heard of that one, to be honest. But that doesn't mean much from me.
I've definitely told you about it. Maybe in a group and you just didn't pay attention.
That sounds about right.
It's like one of those animes that like I feel like a lot of people stumbled on at the same time. Like, but not a lot of people. Like, somebody didn't tell me to watch Heroic Ag. I just saw it appeared, and I was just looking for anime, and I started watching it, and I was like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, like it feels classic, but it also feels new. It's hard to describe.
Yeah, it's very difficult. All I know is that they fought for days. Some of the battles.
Yeah. Like it's the opposite of Dragon Ball. So in Dragon Ball, you have a 5-minute battle that takes 6 episodes.
Yeah.
In Heroic Age, you have battles that are hundreds of hours that might pass by in like an episode and a half while other things are going on.
Yeah.
I prefer the latter.
It's super wild.
Because the battle itself isn't the show. It's not important. It's all about the struggle to survive.
Yeah. I could talk about Heroic Age for a long time. Thank you. That's a good pick. I like that, Steve. Okay, Kyle. Number 5.
Cool. So my number 5. So going back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, the fluff. This anime, in my opinion, is 90% fluff and
tight.
But it's good fluff because anyway, I'm just going to say the title and then maybe it'll make sense to you guys, but I can explain it anyway. So my number 5 is One Punch Man.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Continue.
I heard a gasp. I don't know what that means.
I just like that show. It's a good show.
Oh. And so I say it's mostly fluff just because like the story beats, the things that happen, like they don't matter. Nothing really matters. But at the same time, they still kind of all play into Saitama's main, like, deficit character flaw. I don't know. Problem is that, he can't fight anybody. And so, but not fighting somebody never does anything. Like he just beats them. So it doesn't go anywhere. So, but yeah, I really like that show too.
Have you seen Mob Psycho 100?
No.
You should. It's the same. I'm surprised you haven't. It's really good. I like it better than One Punch Man.
It's funny. I haven't seen Mob Psycho 100, but the funny thing is, like, when I think about anime sometimes, I feel like you could just say stuff like dark screen, demon souls. It's like, it's an anime. Like, and you're like, who knows what I'm walking into? But I want to say one thing about One Punch Man. I couldn't get past the second episode of that anime.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, like...
I could see that.
I think I will one day probably give it another try in a different place in my life. But I think it's just the fluff part of it is, to me, I get it. It's an overpowered guy and it's kind of like a parody.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that, but like, I just, like, I don't know. Like, I get that it's a joke, but I don't know. It just wasn't funny to me, I guess. And I love that he's overpowered, but I don't know. It was empty to me. It was empty to me, so I couldn't really. The first, second, I maybe got to the third episode and didn't finish. And you know me,
Is that
Steve,
the episode? Is that the
leave.
Mosquito Queen?
She's early.
Yes, I recall a mosquito of some form.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think one of the issues is that it was kind of slow going, and a lot of the first couple encounters were very samey. Like it didn't really vary them until later, and like again, the stakes and things like that never really mattered, but they did introduce some stakes later.
Okay.
Yeah, I always tell people it's a comedy, but it's not really a comedy. Like I think you kind of smell that, Brad. Is that it's not really that funny because it's a story about a guy who's like depressed and lonely, and he's trying to figure out how to live his life as a hero for fun, where he can't get any satisfaction from anything because he's just completely overpowered. But then it also adds in other elements, so he becomes like a more well-known hero, and but he's so powerful that people don't believe how powerful he is. So he's like kicking all these monsters' butts, but people think that he's like cheating or that he's like in on it somehow, and he has to like play the heel so that other heroes don't look bad. And it's really like it. I mean, I wouldn't say it's like ultimately interesting, but there's something there. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, you just reminded me of conflict. That's probably the best side of the conflict is once he actually starts to gain notoriety.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, it's just weird.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where there's some other shows like Jessica Jones, the Netflix series, where a lot of people quit pretty early. Same with like Breaking Bad. I've heard a lot of people go, "Oh, like, it's just some shows take like a little while to get going." And depending on where you are in your life, if you don't got time for that, it's like, all right, so that's kind of how I feel. That's why I want to give it another try. But
yeah, I would even say watch Mob Psycho over One Punch Man. I think Mob Psycho does a lot of the same things, has an overpowered protagonist, but he's not so brutally overpowered that it's not interesting. And on top of that, it is more focused on like teaching lessons because he's a kid, so he's like learning how to do things. Yeah, it's really great. As much as I like One Punch Man, I really loved Mob Psycho.
Well, I'll just say this anime is not on my list, but Baki the Grappler is an interesting take on the same thing. Is that Baki the Grappler has the most overpowered character in the show, but like he is completely chaotic neutral, maybe? I don't know. I don't even know.
He's pretty chaotic for sure, yeah.
But it's like there's a character that essentially makes all the other characters moot, but he's not like he's not the hero. So it's a very interesting take on OP. I really, if there's Baki the Grappler on Netflix, but I always say go back and watch the original because Baki the Grappler on Netflix is just
what they do to it,
bruh. It's not bad. It's just
it's next level over the top. It just always has the top.
Too much.
It's really too much. Yeah,
it's too much in a good way, but it's like I feel like if you don't have the context of the original series,
you ain't ready.
It seems even more ridiculous. But if you watch the original series, you're kind of like, oh, I get it. Like,
so you need the original as a baseline.
I don't think you need it, but I think it makes the show better.
Okay,
yeah,
that's how
I watched a man insert his fingers from another man's chin up through his face, like under his skin.
That's
inserted
rough.
his fingers under his skin and basically deface him.
Let's just put it this way. There's a character who could perform surgery with his bare hands and leave no
No wound.
Oh my goodness.
There's a character who can poison you just by like slapping you, and you die instantly.
That's broken.
Yes. But that's the thing, like, that's the whole show. And that's the thing, like, those characters are like the most normal characters.
They're not even the worst they're not even the most dangerous people in the show.
We
Oh my
can talk
gosh.
about his grappler, like maybe have an episode on that, because this show, like, it is so top notch. But for the sake of time, let's continue.
Let's move on.
I'll do my number 4. My number 4, like, this one I've debated about where I want it on my list really hard, because I actually think I'd like to put it higher, but I think there's I don't know if there's reasons, but I decided to put it here. Number 4 for me is Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex.
Dang.
You know,
that was my number 2.
Yeah. So, for me, I want to put it higher, but Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex is, to me, the ultimate sci-fi experience. I love sci-fi movies. I love sci-fi TV shows. I love sci-fi anything, particularly high level, high concept. And the world that they created in Ghost in the Shell is so incredibly in depth, so incredibly well made, so interesting. And these introspective, like, deep concepts that they introduce is like on another level. And there's some moments in the show that I was like, I've never seen pulled off in another show. Like, there's these whole set of side characters called Tachkomos, where they go a route with it that, like, honestly, to me, is one of the coolest, like, ways of approaching AI and the whole thought experience. It's, to me, it's such a beautifully well made anime, like, drawn, but also
it looks
just
incredible.
It's incredible, and just the way that they approach a lot of the topics, the way that they approach sci-fi, the conflicts, the political, this whole idea of, like, what is being even human, in this world.
Ooh.
And like the evil, like the villains, and like just how everything works is super duper cool. It's one of those shows that, like, I could watch 100 times and still feel like I don't get it.
Find something new.
Yeah, it's so deep, man. The people who wrote it, it's
a whirlwind,
beautifully but well made. So
the
it was
intro
hard.
theme song is a banger.
Oh yes. The intro, I will listen to it.
Yes,
and the outro, like, it literally does things to my soul.
Deep touch.
You know,
it's one of those old shows that I think, like, it asks, how do I put this? You know, these old shows would ask these questions that maybe newer shows can, like, ask better, because we've seen it so many times, and now we've kind of moved on to more interesting questions. But Ghost in the Shell, I don't think anyone has done Ghost in the Shell better than Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
Like, there's not really anyone else who's come close to the level of philosophy, and it's wild.
They went in.
And it's all wrapped up in a banging sci-fi story.
Yes.
Very
and
cool.
I think it does kind of what some of the older sci-fi, like the Jules Verne's and the, like, these books that were written, like, in the past, but they kind of, like, predicted problems that were going to come in the future. Like, this whole question of what is identity in a digital landscape is, like, I was like, what are they even talking about? Like, as a kid. But, like, now, reflecting on some of those conversations and some of the topics, I'm like, they were, like, ahead of their time, you know? It's definitely a show I would say that isn't for the newcomer in anime, or for people who aren't interested in really deep shows, you know?
It's heavy. I've only seen a handful of episodes, and that didn't help my case of trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
I watched it as a child and I loved it, but I definitely did not understand it until I watched it as an adult.
Should watch it again.
100%. Like, it was super cool and everything was good, but, like, as an adult, watching as an adult, I was like, whoa, this is a completely different show almost. I'm interested to hear a little bit more about your thoughts on your number 2, Steve. But
Sure.
But yeah, so that's my number 4. It was a difficult decision, but I put it there. Steve, what is your number 4?
Okay, so I am going to. This is probably going to be lower than you expect. For the fact this is on my list and it's this low is going to surprise you. I think.
When you say low, you mean as in
number 4?
4 and not higher.
Okay, got you.
Yes, but I'm going to go with Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Oh,
really? Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, continue.
I will say that this is my first recommendation to anybody who doesn't know what anime is.
Same. Fair.
I can see that.
This is the everyman's anime. This is a show that has a little bit of everything in terms of like Western storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a fun show. It's interesting. It's exciting. It has great characters. It has great art. I mean, it has great voice acting.
It's graspable.
It's graspable. It has a hard magic system. So like you can understand what's happening for the most part. There's not any questions of like what's going on or how did that happen until maybe near the end when things kind of go off the rails. It's well paced. It's just such a great show. And it tells such a universal story. It's about people dealing with war and massive conspiracies and how to like be human and reasonable in times of chaos. And
the main character is dealing with loss.
Yeah, loss, grief, dealing with the search for immortality. Like, it's all good stuff.
Very good.
You can't really fault it in any way, as far as I'm concerned.
I can't even disagree with anything. It's on my list. I'm gonna share a little bit more of my thoughts when it comes up to me. But I think that's a great choice.
And I will specify, I said Brotherhood, not the original.
Yes, good point.
Not that the original is terrible, but it's definitely not as good. It's
so they made it better. That's good.
I
think that Full Metal Alchemist is exactly like there's some animes that I really love that what's called Jump the Ship or Jump the Shark or whatever they call it, because they didn't want to put filler in the show, like to pad it out. And the show was still being written like in the manga, like in the comic book at the same time. And the anime caught up with the manga. So the anime writers had to diverge from what the original plan was.
They pulled a Game of Thrones.
So Full Metal Alchemist is a testament of it's like its own success was its own problem. Like it was too good. It caught up with the show, and then they went a different direction. And if Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood never exists, there's no way that Full Metal Alchemist would be on my top 5. But
I think it also goes without saying that the old show just isn't as good. Like it's not as well drawn. The scripting is kind of wacky. Like it's aside from the diverging plot, like it's just not as high quality as Brotherhood was.
True story. Have you ever seen Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Kyle?
Yeah, I've seen both. I guess so. The original is just called Full Metal Alchemist. I'm assuming.
Correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen a little bit of both. And
so you haven't finished both?
No, I haven't finished either of them.
Okay, that's a
problem.
It's the Full Metal Alchemist. I'm gonna speak more on it, I guess, later. But it's okay. So, Kyle,
what I did watch, I enjoyed though.
What's your number 4? There's so much to say. What's your number 4?
So my number 4 is actually your number 5. It was Dragon Ball, and I guess I was kind of dumping Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z in the same bucket.
Agreed. I'll go with that.
Which I know they're very different, but
I was about to say they're so different.
Yeah, but I liked them both
They're
equally.
both
yeah. So I didn't want to choose. I mean, they're part of the same series, so I thought it'd be appropriate to.
I'm assuming you're not adding GT to that.
Ooh, I think I'm one of the few people who actually did GT. Oh, I'm one of the few who actually enjoyed GT. I think, but that's because my anime like quality ceiling is very low.
Yeah.
So I will tell you right now, as we've seen, I've seen very few animes. Of the ones I've seen, I haven't watched them very much. I appreciate them, but I've never had the time nor the unction to like sit through full animes. And GT was on Toonami, so I think I did watch that one in its entirety. While Dragon Ball Z it's hard to tell. Like I know of the Buu saga, the Cell saga in Dragon Ball Z, but a lot of things from Dragon Ball are still kind of like I know about Raditz and stuff, but it's all a lot of it's very like it's jumbled in my head. So
yeah, that's fair. I mean, I can't. I actually put when I was originally making this list, I did put the whole bucket of Dragon Ball together. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen Super yet. There's some reasons for that, but GT I kind of can't put in there because I wanted to like it. It's like one of those shows you watch because you love the source material. So you're like, I'm gonna like this. It's gonna get better. I know why. It's gonna get better because it's Dragon Ball Z, and it just kept going in directions. And I watched a lot of it. But yeah, I would agree. I would say that Dragon Ball kind of falls in there because Dragon Ball, like, it's a completely different show because it's almost like it's almost like Mutant First Academy. Like people don't know they have powers yet. So it's like a different type of show.
It's like more Discovery kind of.
Yeah, and you're finding and all these people that you learn to love because of Dragon Ball Z. Like most people saw Dragon Ball Z before they saw Dragon Ball in the States. Like you start to see like, oh, this is where they started. This is where they first met. This is how they all came together. Like it's really great.
That was my experience. Yeah, I saw Dragon Ball Z first. And at first, I didn't really understand what Dragon Ball was in reference to Dragon Ball Z. Like, I thought it was some sort of weird spin-off or spoof. And so I ignored it for quite a while because I was like, that's not what Goku looks like. But then I accepted it.
You thought Dragon Ball Z was a spoof?
No, I thought Dragon Ball was a spoof of Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, that's just as funny, actually.
Yeah, because I had no idea what their relationship was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was super confusing. Like, just like, wait, Dragon Ball? I mean, I remember being confused because I saw some of the Dragon Ball Z movies, and they were clearly referencing things from Dragon Ball, but it was like, wait, what? Like, why is Namek? Why is King Namek? Like, it was super confusing. Or what's his name? Remember the other green dude who's basically the main enemy in Dragon Ball?
Piccolo?
No.
King Piccolo or Nail? Not Nail.
No. The little small dude, like green.
Yeah, the little guy.
He was in Dead Zone, I think.
He had the henchman.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. But he was the main villain in Dragon Ball. Remember? Like he was always trying to get to Dragon Balls. Like, and he had that like
the radar.
Weird dog guy and the girl who's with him. But anyway, it's a good choice, Kyle. All right. Well, let's talk about our number threes. So my number 3 is Steve's number 4, which is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I almost echo everything that Steve said. I think 100% I'm on the same page. If I'm going to introduce somebody to anime, they're going to start with Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood because it is in many ways the full package, right? Like it's drama, interesting characters, like there's a little bit of romance, there's everything. Like my wife, Shailene, she's funny enough, like I think she's seen like Attack on Titan. It's like maybe her first anime, which is like that's
rough.
That's the deep end.
Deep end, right? But like I think she finished the first season. But like when we got married, I said, "Hey, I want you to watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood with me." And we started watching it when we were dating, like right before we got married. But like, so I could see she was like, "Oh, I don't really get it," and then we started watching it, and then it was like we're watching 4 or 5 episodes a night. Like
it draws you in so fast.
Like once you get to that point, there's a point where essentially like the first season is all of Full Metal Alchemist, the original show, like. Or maybe not even the first season, like the first half of the first season. And then from there, it just goes. Like, once it gets to a certain point, it's like, oh, like, it's so intense.
Like recaps or tonality?
It's
a lot of the story is the same.
It's the same story. Like, but it just skips stuff. It like it almost assumes that you watch Full Metal Alchemist in some degrees, because it'll sometimes, like, introduce a character without like explaining a whole bunch of their background, because they kind of explain it more in Full Metal Alchemist. So it's an interesting, but you don't need Full Metal Alchemist to watch Brotherhood.
No, I haven't seen the original in a long time, but when I rewatch Brotherhood, I don't feel lost or anything.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Although I'm trying to rewatch the original and I have not been successful because it's just not as something I wanted to say when I said I'll introduce it as like the everyman's anime. What I really meant was that it's really palatable for people who don't watch anime. It doesn't like scream it doesn't scream Japan at you.
No,
like a lot of other anime does. And I think that's what Brad was saying just now too.
Yeah,
it feels familiar.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely different, right? But it feels it's almost like the Avatar equivalent, like
The Last Airbender.
Yeah, like for many people, Avatar is like their first anime, and they don't know it. You know, so in many ways, if you want to convert somebody to anime, you start them with Full Metal. Well, you show them Avatar, then you show them Brotherhood, and then you're good. You know,
and then you show them Attack on Titan,
and then they stop watching anime forever.
Is this what you wanted?
Show them like I don't know if y'all know.
You show them Sword Art Online. Season.
I want to talk about Sword Art Online. Like that's that. I was gonna bring this up later. We might not have the time, but it's like the greatest animes that never were. Like Sword Art Online. Oh my goodness, it was. I got so many feelings about Sword Art Online. Okay, so but Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, my number 3, 100% it's a must watch if you're an anime fan. So to me, at least. All right, so Steve, what's your number 3, sir?
So this is what I was saying earlier. So I was going to put this at 4, but then in the last minute I changed my mind. I'm going to go with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Okay.
Number 3. And it's hard for me to really explain why, because on the surface, it's not a great show. It's hard to describe. This is literally a show that I want to say exists purely as a vehicle for the writer to come up with wacky situations with people who have wacky powers and then have wacky solutions for those fights. Like that's really what almost every episode of the show pits one or more of the heroes against one or two villains, and the powers that they each have are usually very specialized and distinct. But then in the fight, they have to come up with a specific way to either use their power in in a different, out of the box thinking kind of situation, or just some sort of teamwork thing. But it's always very smart and kind of weird. And it's just so creative. It's a show that you never know what's going to happen next. There's a villain who literally has a fishing pole with a line and the pole and everything can just go through space, like walls and everything. And he can catch you on the hook. And once the hook is in your flesh, it just keeps digging deeper and deeper until it gets to your heart and kills you.
Oh my
But that
goodness.
whole time, you can't break the string. You can't get away. And he can drag you through. He's pulling through walls, so you're just, in a room somewhere else, with your feet against the wall trying to get this thing out, and then you die. That's his power. There's a guy who can breathe life into any object, and so he, makes trees come out of the ground to create shade, and the shade blocks a power from somebody else. Or he, has little buttons on his shirt that he always turns into other objects, and, he'll turn into a bird and fly away, and then the bird flies to his friend and turns into a button again, and it's like, oh, our buddy sent us a message, it's just something completely bonkers. And it's just so good. It's so good. And the art style is insane. The music is incredible. The tone is very difficult to pin down. It's over the top, very serious, but doesn't take itself seriously. Everyone always has the most ridiculous stone-faced expressions. Their eyes are shadowed, and they have these inhuman poses where they're trying to intimidate each other. But then they'll start unfolding a piece of paper, and a hand with a gun comes out of the paper and shoot. It's just you really don't know what's gonna happen. It's great, and there's a new season coming out called Stone Ocean. And I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Stone Ocean?
Stone Ocean, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's about a woman. It's about a woman she's in prison. So she's like, I want to escape from this ocean of stone. That's
very poetic.
They're all somewhat poetic.
JoJo's one of those shows that I probably didn't watch it because I thought it was a different show. Like, I got confused. I thought for a moment that it was Bobo. And that is one of the stupidest animes ever created.
It was on my list at one point.
Oh my god.
I mean, it's just so good.
It's literally
so good.
The fact that it was on your list actually kind of makes sense to me, Kyle. But like, it's literally the most crackheaded show. Like,
it is 100%.
It is so over the top. It is. I mean, the main character using his nose. So I thought I was confused, but like, it's so funny. Like, everybody talks about it, and also I was introduced to JoJo because there's like a fighting game. I think with JoJo's characters in it or something.
It's so bad.
There's probably a few characters from JoJo's are in several fighting games.
So like, I was aware of them, but I was super confused. Like, so like, finally, I'm like, all right. It's kind of like My Hero Academia. It's like, I got to sit down and watch this anime because it's prolific. Like, everybody talks about it.
If you know our mutual friend Joe, he started watching it, and I think he watched all of it in like a month. Like, he caught up almost.
Yeah, Jeremy talks about it all the time.
He was like texting me his hot takes because there's a meme every episode. Every episode has some ridiculous thing. There's one episode where two men are magnetized by the villainess, and so they start having a problem where more and more like metal is being drawn to them, and it becomes a problem. And they're like, "Oh, I'm stuck to the escalator. Oh God, I'm gonna get sucked into the escalator and die." Like stupid stuff.
Wow.
And they end up crushing her to death by trapping her between them.
Oh my gosh.
And then like all the cars that like were collapsing around them and stuff, and she gets killed and then her power stops working. Like,
spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
It's just one episode. It doesn't matter. It's great.
Well,
the ride, it's all about the ride, dude.
Well, all I can say is it's not like I need to watch it. But let's keep moving because I think we're running on time. So, Kyle, what's your number 3?
Yeah, we might have to do a part 2 here. So I got to say something about JoJo. The way that they handled their characters and their moves and their powers and stuff created a horrible game. They have a standalone game and it is completely incomprehensible. But it seems like the community likes it, but everybody else is just like, you can't even play this thing.
So basically, you have to. The only way to like JoJo's Bizarre Adventures fighting game is to like JoJo's Bizarre's fighting game. That's it. There's no other prerequisite. It's like,
if you like the show, you probably like the game.
From what I've heard, if you like the show, it gets you closer to liking it, but it's not a guarantee.
It's part of the way.
Yeah.
All right, hit us.
So my number 3 was actually just mentioned, My Hero Academia.
Really? Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually just finished watching all that's available on Hulu. I forgot how I got introduced to the show. I think a friend of mine told me about it, but I was immediately just engrossed because I've always had an affinity towards heroes. And then, whenever somebody puts a little spin on, I guess, comic book style heroes, but they show them in a different light, I always gravitate towards it.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Mm-hmm. You might be. So you said no spoilers, so I'm not going to say anything else about it. I guess I don't know how to avoid spoilers, but I highly recommend it.
I mean, I could say is I'm not finished with My Hero Academia, so maybe it'll one day be on my list. But it's interesting because the only reason why I haven't finished it is because I accidentally started watching it dubbed, and then when I got to season 2, it was subbed, and I said I can't do this.
You're trapped.
I got to start over subbed if I'm gonna, that's just
so
the end.
It's fully dubbed now.
Yes. So now I'm watching it through. I just finished season 1. I mean, all I can. I mean, I don't know if this will help at all, Kyle, but to me, I think it's one of those cool shows where it takes like elements of like, oh, like let's talk about mutants, right? Because essentially that's the premise. Like 80% of the population is mutants, and they become basically superheroes. And then there's superheroes and villains, and the superheroes are kind of like standardized and kind of have rules, and it's like it's almost like I don't know. I guess it's not a spoiler alert to talk about the Marvel movies, but it's kind of like the whole idea of like what Tony Stark was going for. Like, hey, we need the Sokovia Accords, Like, we need rules, and there's rules, and the heroes act in it, but there's an academy that's like training hero. It's super cool. I like the concept a lot.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
I love My Hero because it has, again, all these really interesting powers and excellent characters and
Very good.
excellent villains. I love the villains.
Mm-hmm.
The pacing is garbage. I'm sorry. Like,
That's
it's
fair.
it's just tournament arc after tournament arc, and then in between nothing happens.
Interesting.
I mean, I'm gonna keep watching it.
Yeah, it definitely suffers from the main characters being in school. Like it relies too heavily on it sometimes, and so it can really make things feel super like segmented and too linear, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I would say this, like, when I went to Japan, that's like, there's like maybe 3 animes that like are huge, and it's like, of course, Dragon Ball Z is like, it's OG, right? It's My Hero Academia and One Piece and Naruto. Like, but My Hero Academia is like, seems like to slowly be overtaking some of that mind space, and I think it's because for kids in Japan, it's really relatable.
The characters,
so and their whole exams and dealing with stuff like that's Japanese culture. So I feel like it really speaks to that. But like, I brought my brother like a All Might statue from Japan. He was like, "This is nice." Like, I know if my brother was on this podcast, like, I feel like My Hero would be like maybe number 1 for him. But it's incredible how much of a cultural icon. It's so fast because it's like Naruto's been around forever. Dragon Ball Z's been around forever, but like, it seems like it's just overtaking everything as far as popularity. So moving on to number 2, and speaking of Naruto, number 2 on my list is Naruto, and that includes Naruto Shippuden because it's one thing. And it's very funny that you said what you said, Steve, about it, like, its pacing, because Naruto is the predecessor to this show, like, in the sense that you're watching children grow up, and it's crazy because the reason I put Naruto at number 2 is because I don't believe I was actually listing out all the animes I've watched, and I've probably watched maybe 50 animes. There is no anime that I know of that I've watched so far that has a story that is so strong and so ridiculously tight as Naruto Shippuden. It is so ridiculous how well, there's no plot holes. I'm super hardcore sci-fi person, so I love like breaking down shows and be like, this is stupid, doesn't make any sense. Like, things that were said in like episode 3 are like coming to pass in episode 600. Like, it is so crazy. Like, I think to myself sometimes, who are the people who wrote this show? Because they are the ultimate in planning. Like, how do you plan almost 7 years ahead? Something somebody says in a conversation, or a story that was told, or a power that's introduced, or something that is so crucial, and you don't realize how important it was and why this person was doing a thing in this moment at this time. It is crazy, man. Like, the filler aside, like, nowadays I can say, hey, just go on the site and not watch the filler. But Naruto and Naruto Shippuden is so strong to the very end. Once you get past this, like, a certain point in Naruto, it's cooking with gas. Once it gets to Shippuden, it's over. Like, the stakes are never ending high stakes. And I will say this, like, because it doesn't really matter, because it won't help you in any way. There are, like, you know how, like, if you've ever watched Attack on Titan, anybody is at risk. Naruto is the same.
Feels the same.
It is the same.
Super hype.
Yeah.
It is absolutely the stakes at a point. You're like, oh my goodness. And when the conclusions and stuff that you expect from a normal show, or what you don't expect, like, they take it in places. It's absolutely well written, and
that's awesome.
It's incredible. Like, if there's a reason it's not my number, there's only one reason it's not my number 1. It's because the show that's number 1 can't be surpassed. But It would be my number one on any other day if this other anime didn't exist. It is absolutely, utterly incredible.
I've always liked in storytelling what you mentioned earlier, like the continuity. And that's one thing I've noticed from like the Marvel movies. But I think it's not comparable to shows, especially ones with hundreds of episodes. Like I think it takes a lot more nuance to maintain continuity whenever you're just being blasted with content in that way, even if it's a lot of fluff. So that's a daring feat.
It's incredible. I don't know how they didn't. Like, there's so many moments where you're like, you could have easily messed this up or stepped on your toes. But they somehow, even in 600 episodes, managed to stay straight as an arrow. It's crazy, dude. It's
good director.
Yeah. Somebody's an absolute genius. Whoever made it is next level. Like, you know.
Yeah. And a lot, I've heard that mangas, I don't know how to, I'm not in, anyway, that a lot of them are written, like the beginning and the end, or I guess comic books in general, graphic novels, are the beginning and the end are kind of written at the same time, because before they even like start telling the story, they do an immense amount of world building and character development. And so like that probably leads into being able to maintain those things too.
Yeah. If your rules, I think Steve was saying it, like the rules are grounded in Full Metal Alchemist or whatever, like they're very clear. I think Naruto has a similar like ability. It's kind of like Star Wars in a sense. Like Star Wars has all these rules, and things kind of just fall in there, and they kind of have to fit there. And they like Star Wars is a little bit more loosey goosey, but like Naruto, it's like the rules are the rules, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like it doesn't matter how great you are.
I always love hard magic systems.
It's very good. So anyway, that's my number 2. I could talk about Naruto for hours.
I know you could.
Steve, what is your number 2?
I'm gonna go with Bleach. No, I'm kidding.
I was about to be like, nah, that's a hot take, baby. Let's go.
Bleach is not my number 2. Bleach is not on my list.
It's number 1.
I watched Bleach, and I don't regret it, but I definitely will never watch it again.
It has great moments. But
my number 2 is Ghost in the Shell.
Okay. Oh yeah, you did say this earlier. So continue.
I did say this. Yes.
Why?
So I love Ghost in the Shell. Everything that you said is true. I love that they're exploring questions and concepts that no one else has explored yet. Not even like on top of that. I love all the cool sci-fi stuff. The robots, the guns. I like the intrigue. You know, if you're not aware of Ghost in the Shell, on the surface, it's about a crack team of like super spies working for the government to like stop sci-fi terrorists, pretty much. Like it's a bunch of people who specialize in like I guess network security, which sounds boring, but when everyone has like a cyber brain, it makes sense. And they're like hacking people's brains and, you know, diffusing missiles and but it's all great, and they all have cool characters. You really learn to love all the characters, and they don't do like any goofy introductions. You just learn them. You just learn them over time. It's awesome.
Hacking people's brains. People were saying that about Facebook. Sorry.
No, I mean, but that's what they call it. Yeah. Like I think one of the very first episodes, if not the first episode, is about a politician being held hostage by his robot, basically by his robot servants. They were hacked and they're being used to hold him hostage, and so homies have to come in and like blow off their heads and you know take care of the hacker who's like controlling everything from afar. It's pretty solid. And then they had a second season which was just as good. A little more, I would say, perhaps more incomprehensible,
more out there, more Evangelion-esque, if anybody knows Neon.
I was actually going to make a joke about Neon Genesis as well, but that's next. But yeah, Ghost in the Shell is great. My only problem with Ghost in the Shell, I'll say this, the Netflix 3rd season, I guess that came out recently, a few years ago, looks terrible. It has the most uncanny 3D art. I really hated the art. However, the story and writing and everything else is just as good as like the old anime. And even though the art is kind of mucky, it's not mucky, that's a really bad word. It's very clean. It's almost too clean. It's like shiny. Even though the art is kind of shiny, the animation is like pitch perfect. There's a scene where this guy is like, he's avoiding everybody's attacks like bullets and like fists and stuff because he's like super smart and he can predict what they're doing. And the way that he moves is so fluid. Like everyone mostly moves as a human, but this guy, even though he's a human, is moving like, I don't know, like a snake. Like he's just flowing around them, and I'm like, that is the best looking computer generated movement I've ever seen. And it's exactly how I would imagine someone who's completely focused on efficient movement would move.
Wow.
It was great. So definitely watch the Netflix version. Other downside is the old anime had incredible opening music, as we have already talked about. The new Netflix version has god-awful opening music.
No,
it made me want to jump out my window every single time the episode started.
Dang.
Well,
yeah, at least Netflix lets you skip it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
they know.
Yeah. Ghost in the Shell is just OP. So
OP.
Kyle, what's your number 2?
So my number 2 probably has a very comparable opening to Ghost in the Shell as far as like iconic. You know, you choose me and I'll choose you.
Oh, please don't say it's Pokemon.
Wow, he pulled out the. Is it okay? Pokemon. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Top 2.
So
Kanto, or just all of them, or
the last couple of seasons or whatever you want to call it, not worlds, locations. I'm disconnected.
Regions.
So regions. There you go. Thanks.
Yeah,
I got you.
Have lost me. And so yeah, definitely the first couple of Kanto, Johto, very near and dear to my heart. Probably one of the first animes I was introduced to because it was like on WB and
WB Kids, yeah.
Yeah. And so
Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, Saturday morning, 8 a.m. You know, the only thing that can get a kid up at 8 a.m. on a Saturday were those cartoons. So now there's no motive, and there was I'll never forget. I guess just the experience of pocket monsters, like just blew my mind. Like because I had a dog, right, but he couldn't blow any fire, and so just desiring for Pokemon to be real is like why it's so high up on my list, because it's still one of the coolest concepts. Like creature capture will always be like a concept that's near and dear to my heart, and so
that's fair.
That makes sense because I think the anime is pretty bad, actually.
I would disagree with that. I would say the anime has some moments in it that are so unique and so special. Like there's a moment in the anime where Pikachu is talking to like Caterpie or something, or and they're having a conversation, and it's a moonlit night, and they're talking in Pokemon talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking as a kid, like I can actually feel their conversation. Like it is so powerful. I mean, I didn't put this in my top 5, but Pokemon is very special to me. And I will say this: I was thinking about it as I was looking at my list. That Pokemon the first movie, honestly,
yes,
of all the moments in my lifetime, Pokemon the first movie feels something in my heart, makes me almost tear up when I think about it.
Bro, everybody.
Because I don't know what it did to me as a kid.
Granted, for sure.
Have you watched the remake?
The movie for sure.
No, I haven't seen the remake.
I haven't seen the remake yet. I keep wanting to, but it's like just not high.
Is it good?
When it comes to faithful adaptations, bro, like
it looks perfect.
It is, and those feelings, they will well up in you again. I promise. If you watch it,
I'm scared. I'm feeling it in my chest right now. I don't know what that movie did, son.
It's It's the journey.
You know what's so crazy about Pokemon? The first episode of Pokemon, similar to Naruto, where they set up things that you'll not see until many, many years later, shows a legendary bird that doesn't show up for like 5 years, like 3-4 years later.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. Like, the people who are making these shows they already have a vision. To me, that's fair.
I don't think they ever did that again, though. That was just like a one-time thing.
But you have to think, on the very first episode of your anime that you're releasing, you believe in yourself enough that like one day this will come back around. Like he saw a Pokemon and the thing was like, this is an unknown Pokemon, and nobody believes him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
But isn't that based on the games? Didn't it come out between Pokemon Yellow and Gold?
Well, that particular Pokemon
Yeah, it was Ho-Oh.
Yeah, it was Ho-Oh, and it didn't exist as far as we knew and understood yet. Like,
Right.
so
It's a
they
different
were,
region entirely.
Yeah, so like to me, that's I think that's great. Like to do something like that is really really awesome.
Yeah, because Pokemon could have like died, and then we would nobody would have cared. But for them to put that little Easter egg in the very first episode, like you said, that puts a lot of bets out. That people are eventually going to care what that Pokemon is.
Mm-hmm. And it was subtle. It was to me. Pokemon's very special. I mean, the intro music to Pokemon is one of the best of all time. 100%. Like that's like my number 2, maybe number 1.
Power ballad, excellent.
Oh yeah.
Still know the lyrics to this day. Yeah, great choice, Kyle. Great choice. Not on my top 5, but I cannot disagree with that as being a number 2.
I can.
Over to you, Brett.
All right, so number 1. Okay, so this guy's for me. I don't think an anime could ever top this just because of everything. It's Samurai Champloo.
Wow. Yeah.
What have I done? By not including this.
It's because Samurai Champloo is a mix of beautiful animation, great characters, and incredible music, incredible story, and all in one. And it's all one season. They said we could go further, but this is what we wanted to tell. This is the story, and this is the end. It was perfect, and for me at the time that it came out, I'm a big music person. I later in life became a breakdancer, b-boy, hip hop, and to see them meld Japanese culture, the history of Japan, and hip hop in the music made by Nujabes or Seba Jun, R.I.P., was so transcendent to me. I'd never heard music like that before in my life, and it being combined so seamlessly into an anime where literally the anime and the music was one.
Yes.
Watching and then watching it in both Japanese and in English and seeing how well the translation, like how well they were like, hey, some of this stuff won't make sense to people who are Americans or English speakers, but we're gonna find a way to translate this in a way that feels right. And in the stories that they tell, and a lot of the anime, like the storyline itself is pretty short if you think about it, and a lot of the episodes are kind of like one-off goofy episodes, kind of like from like a sitcom, but they're so interesting.
The journey itself is very simple.
The journey, man, it's so beautiful to me. To me, the ending, I won't spoil it to anybody, it's beautiful to me. I just love just how they decided to go about it, and the real belief in your product. When you say we're doing one season, we don't care how much people love it, we don't care how much people want it, it's done. To me is an ode to music. It's an ode to Japanese history, particularly the samurai era. Mugen is probably one of my favorite characters of maybe all time. And his story, just who he is, his wildness, how he fights like they said, like a wild dog, like perfectly, and just how beautiful the fights are and the music. I could talk about it for days, but that's my number 1. Samurai Champloo. I don't know how y'all feel about it.
So good.
I love it.
It's a very good number 1.
Yeah, it is. And when it comes down to the music, like really fitting the art and stuff, it makes me think of also Cowboy Bebop.
Yes. Within the same ilk of like, we thought about this when we created this. Like, it didn't come later. It was a part of the process. The jazz and the feeling of that era. The space cowboys.
Yeah.
Like it's hip hop samurai. That's kind of what Samurai Champloo is. But yeah, that's my number 1.
Very nice.
Steve?
Yeah.
What's your number 1?
My number 1 is Yasuke.
Interesting. I do not know this.
Kidding.
I was like, what are you saying? I don't know.
Yasuke is just Samurai Champloo, but garbage.
Well, there's a reason I haven't heard of it. Okay.
You haven't heard of it at all?
No,
not
I
either.
do not know. I do not know Yasuke.
Oh, it's I won't get into it. I have a lot of bad things to say about it. I will say this. I watched it with the hopes it looked really good. The trailer looked really good. The music was pretty solid. And I really felt like it was going for the Samurai Champloo, like, kind of aesthetic. But I watched all of it, all 6 episodes of it, and it just never...
Dang.
it never got better. I kept hoping it would get better. By episode 4 or 5, I was like, it's not going to happen.
You gave it a college try.
I sure did. No one could say I didn't give it the old college try. My number 1 is Hunter x Hunter.
Hunter.
I think Hunter x Hunter, first of all, I think one of the things I don't like about these old like Dragon Ball type shows is they're so tropey. And for me, Hunter x Hunter is perfect for that because it's like the anti-trope shown in anime. You have these ultra powerful characters who are dwarfed by the power around them, and they get stronger and they can like deal with some threats, but they're never the biggest threats on the board. You know, there's no keep fighting the bad guy till you get strong enough to beat him, or until your friendship saves you, or some you think of some way to cheese the boss. Is either you win or you lose or you die. Like that's an option. It's this incredible journey. It goes all over the place. Really what it's about is this kid trying to meet his dad, and his dad is like this super famous, super powerful hunter, basically like a bounty hunter. And he just wants to be like him. So he becomes a hunter and he goes out into the world trying to find him. And it has the most wholesome bromance between two kids. Like for me, the show is all about Gon and Kilo's friendship.
Yeah.
Nice.
It has really cool powers. It has like I said, it has a hard magic system. So like the powers mostly make sense, and you can like categorize them, and you can kind of predict how they might interact with each other. It always keeps you on your toes. Sometimes it'll like set up this fight between this like villain that you've seen kind of in the background doing his thing, like always going to be a problem. And then this minor good guy who is kind of new to the show. And then the new guy just totally wallops him, suffocates him to death. And it's like not even a fight. It's just done. Like, oh, this is my true power. No, it's not good enough. Sorry, you're dead now. Like, you never know what's going to happen. All the villains, not all of them, most of the villains are super well written and super interesting.
Nice.
A lot of them feel like anti-heroes, even though they're definitely not protagonists or like heroic at all. It has probably the most divisive and controversial story arc near the end. It's called the Chimera Ant arc, and it's this really long arc that kind of takes a while to build up, and then the climax is like I think 15 or 20 episodes long, which is super long, and it's just like 10 minutes of action. But it's spread out over. It's like Dragon Ball, but much worse. But I think it's much better. The way that it's presented, it's like narrated out, and there's like all these minute decisions and interactions and character choices and development that happen in that 5 or 10 minutes of action. That's like cool. It's like he was building up this huge 60 episode arc just for that 10 or 20 minutes of action.
Wow. And the payoff is worth it.
The payoff is I think it is. A lot of people watch it and it puts them off. They don't like the narration. It's too slow. They don't understand why it's going back and forth this much. But like, it's just so much happening, and I don't want to spoil anything because it's so beautiful. but I'm going to. Even like the way that things play out, you really are like weeping at the end. Like it's so beautiful. So, and then it has like an ending arc after that, and then it's done.
So I'm just going to say something really quick, Steve, because I'd like to hear Kyle's number one. I'm going to be very real with you. I've watched most of Hunter x Hunter, Hunter x Hunter, whatever you want to call it, Hunter x Hunter. It is basically the Dollar Tree Naruto Shippuden.
Ooh.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in the sense that everything that Hunter, all of its greatest moments, everything it is like a parallel. In a condensed form of what Naruto Shippuden is. And
interesting.
In the friendship between Killua and Gon, Naruto and Sasuke. But take that to a proportional level even higher. Like in the idea that there's people who are just on another level. It doesn't really matter who you think you are. Like and I really like Hunter x Hunter. And I thought about putting it somewhere in my list. I haven't finished it, so I feel like maybe it's not fair to put it on my list at all. But Naruto is. But I really like Hunter Cross Hunter. I think you've nailed it. The only thing I say against Hunter Cross Hunter is it's super anime. Oh my gosh, he's going to use his move that he does. Like it goes into,
it does
into that world. But otherwise,
I like those moments.
Super duper cool. It's super duper cool. But
I like the way that it subverts a lot of expectations, though, even though it does have that anime aesthetic.
And I'll make my last pitch. Naruto is Big Brother. So anyway, Steve,
you've hurt me deeply, but
I haven't hurt you because you haven't watched Naruto. You just don't know that I'm being very honest and not putting Hunter down. I'm just saying there's a reason Naruto is what it is.
He's out of line, but he's right.
But he's right.
He's out of line. All right, Kyle.
All right. So my number one, and in association with my number two, have led and fed into my crippling addiction for collectibles. And so my number one, you may have seen it before.
Is it Yu-Gi-Oh?
It is Yu-Gi-Oh, my man.
No! I love that that's your number one, but it's also the worst. I love
It's the
it.
worst.
Yes, and that's part of the reason why. Because
love it. Oh my
gosh. I thank Yu-Gi-Oh because it allowed me to start at the bottom of what was anything, and it hooked me, so that no matter what else I found, I could watch it. This might be why I was able to stomach GT, because I watched the entirety of Yu-Gi-Oh. I bought every single one of the cards. I quoted the show. I remember buying the $50 starter deck, Yu-Gi and Kaiba, and then whenever they would duel each other, I would set up my decks.
No.
And I would draw my cards and see if I would draw the same ones as them, and then they would pick out a new card that wasn't in my deck, and I'd go buy it.
Wow!
Oh my god!
Yes, I was invested.
You were the whale.
It was me, to a degree. I mean, I was using my mom's money, so
your mom was the whale.
Just thank you, Mama. I appreciate it. But with Yu-Gi-Oh, the first season was good. Weevil was the absolute worst character.
Weevil Underwood.
Weevil, was the absolute worst character that I'd seen in anything up to that point. Card? Yeah, he threw. Yeah. Did he rip them in half first, or did he just throw them?
He just threw them in the water.
I think he threw them because then Joey dove in after to save them. I don't think he would have done that if they were ripped in half.
Honestly, that's a good point.
To be real with you, I was like, if there's one person I'd kill, it was him. But continue.
That's fair.
Yeah, he worked for it. Evil. Like he kept coming back, and it was just like somebody needs to do it. Somebody just needs to make it look like an accident. But I think that show had very tropey characters, especially in the 4Kids dub, and it was.
Wait! I feel like you have to specify: is your number one anime the 4Kids dub of Yu-Gi-Oh, or is it just Yu-Gi-Oh as you watch it?
Sure, I'll specify it was the 4Kids dub because that's all I had.
Oh god.
Yeah, that's what I knew, and so Joey with the Brooklyn accent, the America guy,
yeah, in America.
I don't remember his name, but and then the Pegasus was, something else. Yeah, I had no idea what to do with him, but just like the different character arcs, and then. The Shadow Realm was just Shadow. What is that? And find out. Yeah. Now in adulthood, he killed them essentially. So that's good.
I'll send you to the Shadow Realm. Shoot some head.
But over the years, the way the game was played just got way too complex. Like once they started dueling from motorcycles, I was done. It's like this is completely impractical. Your cards would be flying all over the track. It doesn't make any sense. And, they had the synchro monsters, which was cool in practice until they just became completely busted. And I was like, I've invested probably thousands of dollars at that point. I bought a good couple booster packs over the course of 10 years or something probably. Wow. And so I was like, yeah.
So I should not duel you.
Now you'd probably be okay.
No. People who say stuff like that are on they're the best. I think you might have a chance. No, they're gonna crush you.
I don't want to get mind crushed.
You're just not.
Leave me be.
You're just not on this level. but that is a great. It's funny, like you said so many like things that you hated about the end of it. It's just funny that it's your number one. You're like, yeah, like they're on motorcycles. That was trash. They did this. It was trash. But it's very interesting. It must have touched you in a way that no other anime did.
Touched his wallet.
It did.
He's fully invested, and he can't.
I still haven't financially recovered.
he's invested. He has to love this.
His mother lives in a house made of Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
No, but that's super cool. I mean, I feel like in the same way, that's like Samurai Champloo has a special place in my heart, and it doesn't really. It's just what it is. Like you probably can't top it, unless you did something special. So wow, man. We're running up here on time, and we got to wrap up here. But I did want to ask really quickly. Do you guys have any honorable mentions that you just want to note? Like make it like really quick, but any honorable mentions that were like near the list, but you just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I'll be really quick. Go ahead.
You can go, Steve.
Are we going in order?
You can go ahead, Steve.
So what I dropped off my list last minute was Darker Than Black. Specifically season 1, because season 2 was trash. But Darker Than Black is about people. I'm not going to get into it. It's a cool show. It has people with crazy powers, and they're fighting against each other, like they're controlled by the government and stuff. And there's some sort of mystery about the universe because the stars disappeared a long time ago, and there's semi high stakes and mysterious protagonists. It's pretty cool. I like it a lot. Nice. Fourth
time. What about you, Kyle? Do you have any honorable mentions?
My honorable mention would be a show that I wouldn't recommend to our younger viewers, which is The Boondocks. Maybe it like partially counts as anime. I know the director, he went to Japan, but
inspired by, I can't remember very heavily.
Yes,
I forget his name, but yeah.
But anyway, great show, super incredible reflection of modern times. The language is out there, so watch with viewer discretion is advised.
I think out there is an understatement. I mean,
it's way out
honestly, there. I will say this. Boondocks is one of the shows that I can't jive with because it is a parody, but it is such a parody. It became a parody of itself. And, I have a lot of feelings about it for another time. For me, my honorable mention, would be, Claymore.
I love Claymore.
Claymore, sadly, because it did divert from the from the manga, the ending is probably one of the
pretty weird,
pretty bad. But up till the last like 2 episodes of that first season, Claymore is like just incredible. It's basically Attack on Titan before Attack on Titan. Just the stakes.
Did we watch that together?
Claymore?
Yeah.
I saw Claymore a long time ago. Like, I don't know.
You haven't seen it recently?
Predecessor?
Basically, stakes-wise, like, everybody can be killed. Like, it doesn't matter how much backstory they give you.
It's also pretty brutal.
And, like, when they die, like, it's literally unceremonious. It's just, like, cut in half. You're done. And they keep moving.
Ripped in half.
And there's a moment in that show that's I've never been in a darker place. I don't think an anime has ever gone to a darker place. But anyway, that's my honorable mention. I feel like you said, Kyle, we got to have a part 2 on this anime conversation. There's so much to talk about. What was our first anime that we really got introduced to? What anime would we not suggest to anybody? But like you would suggest to almost every anime fan. What's your like most underrated like show that nobody's ever seen that you feel like they should give your speech on why? And one of my favorites is like, what's the worst anime you've ever seen? And like, what's the anime that you're like, I don't tell nobody that I watched this anime, but I watched it because I think it's in there. And if anything, like, I hope it encourages us to just watch more, because I'm like, oh man, I got to go back and watch this, or man, I haven't seen that yet. So I love hearing other people's anime stories. So anyway, I really appreciate everybody for watching, or I keep saying watching, but listening to us and hearing our convo. Thank you, Kyle, for your time. Thank you, Steve, for your time.
Pleasure.
Once again, anime. For those who might be on the fence about anime, it's absolutely the right choice. Start now. Do it. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, if you're concerned.
It's a perfectly reasonable genre of a medium to watch. It's just like watching TV or cartoons or whatever. It's just different.
It's just different.
LaShawn Thomas. That was his name. LaShawn Thomas.
LaShawn Thomas.
Who's LaShawn?
He's the director of Boondocks. Great artist.
Kyle was like, I gotta get this in there. I gotta get it in there. It's gonna drive me crazy. But yeah, absolutely anime. If you like TV, if you like entertainment, if you like Marvel movies, if you like, like superhero, anime is. If you like drama, if you like mystery, there's plenty. Every
there's something for you.
Love, everything exists. But anyway,
yeah, we really stay within one area of anime. There's tons of different genres and subgenres of anime that none of us mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and in quality, there's definitely a quality. Not every anime is great. Not every TV.
There's some stratification,
but it's definitely worth your time. So anyway, thank you again for listening to Super Agile Bros. We're always thankful to have you guys here with us. Y'all have a great one. And until next time,